2020 started off with like any other year, which is I'm gonna make this year the best year ever. Now, I don't know about you, but that's literally how I start off every single year. I always begin with, I'm gonna be doing this, I'm gonna get abs, I'm gonna be working on my new funnels, I'm gonna be having all these big goals and dreams and ambitions. Abs, still something I'm working on. But chances are you probably started this year with something similar. There was this big goal, big dream, ambition. And in this video, I wanna walk you through what I went through this year, to walk you through some of the biggest things I learned, life lessons, mistakes that I made, and ultimately how you can utilize 2021 to make it your best year ever. And I'm gonna take you back in time to how I started off the year. So December 31st, 2019, I was in Vegas staying at the Cosmopolitan Hotel. And the reason why I'm holding up my phone right now is literally I need to look at my calendar to kind of relive these moments. And in January, that first week, after partying in Vegas, I spent 2 weeks on a cruise, which is normally what I like to do at the start of the year. I like going to the US, spend about a month to about 6 weeks there to learn, to kind of start my year right, to plan and to strategize. And towards the end of the month, that was when I did my event and also attended an event in Nashville. So this was kind of going into February. And this was like the all-time high, I'd say. Like, this is when I received an award for doing over $25 million in sales at the ClickFunnels event, Funnel Hacking Live, and just having a ton of fun. Now, you probably know at this time in February, it's probably when by now you would have heard of that word, which I don't want to use because that is going to flag the YouTube algorithm. But let's just say there was this thing that's happening around the world, and it seems to have originated in China. And at that time, nobody really thought much about it. It's just the flu, it's the hoax, it's the media is blowing it out of proportion, and nobody thought anything much about it at that point in time. So just like most people, life continued as normal, nothing much. I did my event in Dubai, went over to do one of my favorite events in Bali, Scaling Retreat. And I was really proud of this event because I didn't do anything in order to prepare for it. My team literally designed, prepared all of the handouts where all I did was show up, talked about people and process, where my team literally, because of people and process, managed and handled everything. So everything's good, life's good. And then that is when the interesting thing happened in March. In March, I was doing my event in Poland, and if you've been following this channel, you know that one of the episodes, the vlogs that I did, was at that specific time, I got about 75% of people canceling for the event, even though the event, I was already there, the event was supposed to start the next day, because there was the first death because of the thing that's happening in the world. That was reported, and everybody was in a state of fear in that country at that time because nobody really knew what this thing was. To make things worse, I got a call from the hotel manager who said that the Prime Minister of Poland made an announcement and that borders were going to be closed for at least the next 1 month minimum, and you have 24 hours to leave the country, because if you don't, you're going to be stuck in Poland for at least the next 1 month minimum. Now back then, it was one of those things that either decision is going to be a wrong decision. And these were the two decisions I was stuck with. Number one, do the event anyway, risk spreading this thing, and have blood on my hands potentially, and do it anyway so that I'll minimize losses. Or number two, to not do the event, lose a ton of money through the refunds and cancellations, have a lot of annoyed, pissed off customers because there would be people that's already flown in, and incur a ton of costs because myself, my team, flights, hotels, accommodation, everything is paid for, and it's going to be a 6-figure loss. So nobody knew what to do. I didn't know what to do. It was like, and you can say, like, looking back in retrospect, this was the right thing, but back then in March, either decision is the wrong decision. So I decided that the safety of the participants comes first, and that I didn't want any blood on my hands. I wanted to make sure that everybody's taken care of. So we took a huge hit. We refunded everyone cancellations, and we lost 6 figures that weekend. It was an extremely painful weekend. Took the next flight back. The whole airport was like zombie land, zombie apocalypse. That was when things got interesting. April, okay, and this is where the life lessons come in. It was a really tough time, and the reason for that is because companies that owed us money at that time, they were facing real cash flows. So the companies that owed us money for the events and the services rendered, they weren't paying us at that time because everybody like tightens up budget. At the same time, because my business, a portion of my business, which was live events, was all either canceled or pushed back because nobody knows what's going to happen. And at that time, people has already paid me, so there's just so many things going on. And so that portion of the business I knew was going to be dead. So what we did then was in April, that's when we re-strategized. Now this is a crucial first life lesson, okay, from 2020, which is the assumption, or when you write it down, okay, the assumption that this thing is going to be permanent. Okay, I can't stress this enough. The first huddle, the first virtual meeting that I did with my team, so now my team is no longer working at the office, but everybody is now working from home because the government here has shut down everything and everybody is going to be stuck from home other than just going out for groceries. And the first thing that I said in that call with everybody else on my team is, I said, look, we're going to go through this together. We're not laying anybody off. Nobody's going through a pay cut. But what I'm asking of you guys is for your 100%, because this next month, 3 months, 6 months is going to be absolutely crucial. And the first thing I said is, we are going to assume that this thing is here to stay permanently. Now, why do I say that? It is because the mindset of most people is the wait and see, the hope and pray method, waiting for this thing to be over. And I said that, you know what? If we did that, we are leaving our fate on a third-party externality. And I said, what if we just built our business model around the assumption that this thing is here forever? Because we don't know if there's going to be the second wave, the third wave, the seventh wave, microwave, however many waves, right? All this, whatever it is that you and I think, they're all just speculation. And what I said then is, on top of that, we don't know if this thing is going to change or mutate. Wouldn't you agree that the best way to handle this is just the assumption of safeguarding your business, your skill set, by just assuming that this thing is here forever? And when I say that, it's not about being pessimistic, or it's not about being all about doom and gloom, but rather just understanding that you're now no longer putting your fate in someone else's hands. That it's not the government's fault, it's not Donald Trump's fault, it's not your prime minister's fault, it's not your boss's fault, it's not your colleague's fault, but rather your responsibility to take charge. So whether you own a business or whether you're a 9-to-5, to take charge and be responsible for your own outcome by building up skill sets and improving yourself and pivoting your business if you have one, or if you don't have one, understanding skill sets that will help you not just survive but thrive in this economic climate. So that's number one, assuming that this is permanent and here to stay. So because of that, what we did was I revamped our entire business model in April by assuming that live events is going to be dead permanently, because nobody knows when it's going to be back. And anything that is offline, we brought it online. Anything that has got a delivery mechanism that is offline, we brought it online. Which brings me to my second portion, okay, the biggest lessons in 2020. Number 2 is to make sure you have these 3 things. And the 3 things is an online sales process, with an online delivery mechanism. And before I mention to you what the third component is, just think about this, right? All these businesses that collapsed in 2020, why did they collapse? The first ones that collapsed within like a week, a month, were the ones that didn't have an online sales process. These businesses died within like a month. So brick and mortar businesses, retail, all these crumbled. The second one that's lasted a little bit longer but eventually crumbled within 6 months were the ones with an online sales process but with an offline delivery mechanism. And that's why we take a look at, for example, Airbnb. Everything is online. You could book for whatever it is, the accommodation online. But because the delivery mechanism is offline, that's why they talked about how, like literally their last decade of work was undone in a matter of months. However, these two things are the bare minimum that you want to have, but a third thing that you want to have is basically a remote team. The ability to manage, run, and operate a remote team. That's the third component. So right now, my team, they've been working from home for the last half year now. And if you want to be able to move forward in 2021 by taking charge and making sure these things are in your hand, number two is really to make sure that you have online sales process, online delivery mechanism, but also the ability to handle and run and operate a remote team. And that brings us to April 2020. One of the biggest launch in the online marketing space, Traffic Secrets by Russell Brunson. And Russell Brunson is somebody I admire, love, and adore. And I really wanted to support him in this launch. And if you guys have been following me, you'll know that when Russell launched his previous book called Expert Secrets, I was the #1 affiliate. And I wanted to be able to do the same thing and become the top affiliate again. So, and this is what number 3 is. Long story short, participated in this contest. There was a ton of other affiliates. But when I joined this affiliate contest, I didn't join it with the mindset that most people have, which is just to participate and do their best. Okay. One thing that I've always lived with is it's not about doing your best, but doing whatever it takes. And that brings us to number 3. Doing your best is a very convenient lie we tell ourselves. In fact, the reason why we think that way is because chances are when we were growing up and when we were kids, chances are you've been told by your parents that, hey, you know what, as long as you do your best, that's good enough, right? Oh, as long as you do your best, we're going to be proud of you. But when do you really know you've done your best? And doing whatever it takes is a different mentality. Doing whatever it takes that is moral, ethical, and right, coming from the angle of, you know what, I'm going to do whatever it takes, whether it takes up my sanity, my capital, my time, my focus. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make it work. So in the month of April, what we did was we planned this entire huge contest. We planned for webinars, virtual events. I did a webinar with Russell Brunson himself. I did podcast interviews with him. I did so many things. I did like even YouTube lives right now, right? I did these YouTube lives to really plan and strategize, run ads to promote this book. And we were the #1 affiliate for this launch.
Peng Joon passed him last night, so our gym's dying. So a little context.
We did about $600,000 in sales promoting this one book. Now, I don't get to keep all of it. I get about 40%-ish from all of the sales. But ultimately, that was number 3. Whenever you plan on doing something, don't just do it casually. Don't play the game for the sake of participating, because that's how most people play the game of life. Most people are spectators. They're just watching other people playing the game. Have you been a spectator in 2020, or have you been in the arena, battling it out and playing to win? And that brings us to May 2020. Right now, at this point in time, I was focused on just taking everything that we're doing offline and just focused on the thing that we've been doing all this while, which is digital. And we took our offline events to virtual events, and I was doing pretty much every week. Every week I was either doing a webinar, I started doing a virtual 3-day event, and that month we still maintained sales of over $1 million, where we did our first virtual event of about 1,000 people paying at $497 for that 3-day virtual event. And that was something that was big for me, not in terms of the sales, but the fact that people from all over the world connected online on a Zoom call, 1,000 people paying this amount, and the fact that I could impact and serve more people. Because here's the thing, if not for that thing that's going on around the world, I would have never changed my old ways. I would have continued thinking to myself, you know what, the best way to serve my audience is to take all these different flights, fly to these different countries, go from country to country, do these events. And even though I love teaching, it was a part of my life in the last 8 years, I realized that if not for this thing happening, I would have not changed my old ways, because there's no need to change. And that brings us to my next point. And the next point is really, it can be the best of times or it can be the worst of times. We took this point in time, this month, that was when the world was in the peak of uncertainty and fear, and turned it into something great. And what I'd like you to think about is just think about all those moments in life for you that was tough, that even though those moments, right, at whatever moments those might be for you, and even though it might be extremely, painful, uncomfortable, and it's a moment that you don't want to go through ever again. In fact, let me just pause for a second to let you think about that moment for you and let that moment sink in for a second. Just think about that, okay? Now, maybe it was a time when you were broke, when you were heartbroken, when you were upset, whatever it might be. Just think about your lowest moment or point in life. You have that? Okay, so think about that, and now think about looking back at that moment now. That could be a year ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago. And Steve Jobs says this. He says that we'll never be able to connect the dots when we're living in the moment. Because that's when we'll think about how this is the worst time ever, why does this have to happen to me? But somehow when we look back, if we allow ourselves to, we'll actually realize that those moments were really the moments that shaped our lives. And it could be moments, and those moments could be the moments that break us down, or shape us up. And it is those moments, if we allow ourselves to, where we can come out as the victor because we either became better people, wiser people, smarter people, because we allowed ourselves to grow from those moments. So ask yourself, those moments, best of times or worst of times, and how did you look at those moments? Did you allow those moments to tear you down or shape you up? And that brings us to the month of June, where I want to share with you number 5. Number 5 is actually when we built this studio. Right now, this set, the screen that you guys have been seeing when I shoot my YouTube videos, together with the 12 screens in front of me. Now, we've had this unit for a while now, but we've never utilized it for this purpose, to run virtual events. And we spent, let's just say, silly money buying up this place and refurbishing and fitting it with the state-of-the-art stuff. And number 5 is basically this. I'm going to quote Warren Buffett, and it's basically to be greedy when others are fearful. Warren Buffett talks about how this applies in stock all the time. When people are fearful, it's time to be greedy, and when people are greedy, it's time to be fearful. And you got to ask yourself, like, yes, during a time like this, there are times when we want to play defensive, but there must be parts of your life where you are going on offense because of this moment. And ask yourself, like, what parts of life can you be on the offensive right now? So because I knew that offline delivery mechanism is going to be dead, that is when I told myself, you know what, this is where I'm going to be on the offensive. I am going to be all in when people are fearful and trying to save money and hoard money. This is when I'm attacking. This is when I'm buying stocks. This is when I want to scale my team, because guess what? During this month is when my team started. In fact, not only did we not let anybody go, but we actually scaled and continued hiring, because guess what? This was a time when a lot of people were either getting pay cuts, retrenched, and there was a ton of great talent in the marketplace. So we played offense when everybody else was playing defense. And that's something I'd like you to think about moving forward to this next year? Where in life can you be playing offensive when other people are playing defensive? And sometimes this could be as simple as just working on yourself, working out from home. Like I have personal friends where during this time when the world was stuck at home, and rather than sulking and watching Netflix, they said, you know what? Since I'm gonna be stuck at home anyway, you know what? I don't really have a project. My project is myself and my body. And I've seen friends where they were like massively overweight. They took this time when they were stuck at home and just worked on themselves, working out every single day. And today, when I met my friend like 3 weeks back, total transformation. That brings us to number 6. Number 6 is to slow time. And I say slow time because in July, this was the month when the government kind of allowed people to travel within the country and go out. Again, this was when malls started to reopen. And this was when I went to see my parents after not seeing them for a couple of months. And this was very powerful because I realized how fast time can pass just like that. One of the first things that I brought my parents was to this place to eat steamboat. And basically we're having dinner. And somehow at that moment, I kind of like froze time and I slowed time to kind of enjoy that very moment. And I realized that even though it was such a simple moment, like taking fish balls from that bowl of soup, it was a very special moment because I realized that there will be a time in the future when they're no longer around where I am going to miss simple moments like that. And sometimes I think that we are living this life where we have our goals, our dreams and ambition, and we got to be hustling and we got to be doing all these things to get this specific goal or outcome, that sometimes we forget the simplest things that is going to be absolutely priceless to us. And that's what number 6 is. Number 6 is just to think about the next time when you are having quality time with somebody that means a lot to you, to just put your phone down and slow time and just take that photographic picture in your memory to tell yourself that, hey, you know what, this is such a special moment, even though it's such a simple moment, a routine, knowing that one day that moment is going to be priceless to you. And that brings us to number 7. And number 7 really is, you don't prep for a moment, but you prep your entire life for that one moment. And here's what I mean, because that brings us to August 2020, and by this time I've done countless webinars, virtual events, sales videos, and the reason why I could do it over and over again like it's nothing with minimum preparation is because I realized that all those times on stages, speaking, presenting, closing, was actually, without me even realizing it, preparing for that moment, this moment. And I realized that all of that, speaking in countries just for practice time, where I took on gigs to be in India, Romania, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Philippines, Vietnam. Now here's what many people don't know. I took on all those gigs not because there was big money there. I can tell you many of these gigs that I took on in those countries that I mentioned, there isn't much money. But why did I do it? Why did I spend 5 weeks in India doing a whole tour there in different cities? Is because I just wanted to master my craft. And that's something that many people are not willing to do. Most people are not willing to forego the short-term payoff for a long-term payoff. And I'd love to be able to read you this quote that really drills down the essence. One of my favorite quotes of all time. And it's basically this. This is the same quote that I shared with my mentor the first time I went on a big stage. And basically it says this. It's from Winston Churchill. It says, "To each there comes in their lifetime a special moment when they are figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered the chance to do a very special thing, unique to them, and fitted to their talents. What a tragedy if that moment finds them unprepared or unqualified for that which would have been their finest hour. This was actually the quote that I wrote on my book when I gave my mentor when I first spoke on a big stage. Because I realized that this year, this quote just sums it up so well. If not for this skill set of speaking and presenting in front of audiences, in front of the camera, there's no way I would have been able to do what it is that I'm doing right now. And that's the question that I have for you to think about in 2021. What skill set are you going to be focusing on in building up yourself? So whether you are a 9-to-5, whether you're a business owner, that will help you get prepared for that moment, whatever moment that might be for you, so that when it happens, you find yourself prepared. And that's what luck is at the end of it all, isn't it? Luck is just, what if luck was really just when preparation meets opportunity? Now I could keep going on, but I think that this would be a good place to kind of summarize and move forward with 2021. And I would love to hear what has been your biggest takeaway in 2020. Let me know in the comments below. Share with us what you have learned, your biggest takeaway, that one thing that has made a difference for you. Would love to hear what it is. And as always, be sure to smash the like button if you have enjoyed this video and subscribe to the channel just for this one. If you want to make next year your best year ever, be sure to binge watch this next playlist that's going to appear in 5 seconds. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2.